Hello, anyone who might actually be watching this. This is Paul here, and I managed to get that three-way texture to work. And might actually be the path to do it more than like not just three, but like 4 or 5 different materials mixed with a grayscale. But right now, I'm just settling for 3. So if I do a render here, it's nothing too fancy. It loses the texture I paint on every time, so I don't know if there's a way to get that to save internally, but now we see the sphere I had before, so if I go back to default, escape out of this. Yeah. Right now I'm in texture view, so if I go to rendered preview, yeah, it's the sphere. Enough of the sphere, let's go to the compositing. Okay, so I have the input texture, which is a grayscale that drives the three-way paint. We didn't change it to have different input channels. I could do that later on. So inside this three-way paint, there's well, it has a factor input, so I should probably make it so it has shaders, but I'm not going to mess with that yet. So I pop open the grouped shader. This is what I have here. So the input comes in with that texture, and it's converted to black and white just to make sure it's a black and white value signal. Just as an extra precaution. And I have the paint, a bright paint shader. I have the diffuse, which is like another paint but primer paint, which is kind of a flat paint. And then I changed the metal to anisotropic. So this is the reflective metal, but I added some stuff to give it a texture like it's scuffed up metal or some weird, it has more of a texture now than just a plain old shiny metal, which is kind of interesting. The effect of all this is to give a paint where you can paint one color in some bright shiny paint, and you paint like the gray, and it goes to the primer, and then you paint, white, and then it goes to the bare metal. I got it set up that way. I could probably reverse it, but it doesn't matter too much as long as you notice that black is one color, grayscale is another color, and then white is the third color. Or I should say shader, not colors, because this is actually mixing shaders using a factory channel, or something that works as a factory channel. It's not a true factor. So what I have here is greater than. Okay, this is the higher value. So if it's greater than 0.6, it switches to what's on this one. And it multiplies it, but it also subtracts because I'm doing a division. This is the way I get the fuzziness, or subtracting division channels here. Okay, so 6 minus that, and that'll be 0.4, I believe, or 1 minus 0.6 is 0.4. So I divide by that, but I'm also subtracting. Yeah, so maximum of this output is 0.4, and the minimum is 0. But I also divide by 0.4, so that gives me a 1, 0 output to drive my factor. Because factors here on the mix shaders are between 1 and 0. So that gives me the full range of the shader I wouldn't get if I tried to put a straight input. And this end, this is the bottom end, I believe. No, that's the input. Never mind. But on another shader, I also mix again the same way. This one is at the bottom end, so all I did was divide. But when it hits 1.0, I have it clamped, so it can't go above 1.0. And I guess it can't go less than 0, so the clamp value kind of does what mess of this stuff does for the low values. So that kept my range from going out of bounds, which was something I screwed up the last time I did it building shader. But I put a video of that up so you can see it. And now let's just we have the render result here. This is switch to texture mode and let's just texture paint it. And make sure I'm brushing with something on there. I have my color here. Oh, that's the soften brush. Yeah, it would help if I had a regular brush. So let's, yeah, have very little room to work with. I don't have a widescreen monitor, so it makes it tricky. We'll update one of these days. I am tight on cash. Plan on some things in the future with money, so that's what I'm saving up. But I might get a monitor anyways. So I like the CRT for the color gamut and the refresh rate. And by now there should be an affordable flat screen that should come close. But I'm still checking the market. And by affordable, I mean less than $300. So it has to have good gamut and refresh rate. And I'm looking. Gamut thing is like a big one if you do graphics work, I think. Yep. So we got white painted on the sphere now. Let's click render to see how it looks here. And that's letting the bare metal show through. And then somewhere in the middle range is gray. And I can click render. And that gives you a primer color. So you can see I got this weird pitted shiny looking metal here. The primer color, if I go lighter in the primer, you can actually blend the primer, thin it out, which is cool. So you can actually make it look like it's scuffed up and sanded off, like sanded down to bare metal, just by mixing this grayscale channel, which is a really cool effect. And you could probably do different things with channels, like terrains or something, like if you made your sphere a planet or something. So you can make one channel the ocean and the grayscale, like beaches, and then the other one like land. And maybe if you add a fourth or fifth channel, you can do other things for your planet sphere. But this is just a paint being stripped away kind of shader, which is really neat. And then if we go with that, it should be the black will be the full red. So I do that. That will be your nice shiny glossy paint that's like being sanded off. It's like a primer effect. It's really cool. Just a really neat thing to do. I'm just showing you how to use the grayscale to do it, and it drives the mixer of the three-way colors. See, normally the mixers are only two ways. Shader mixers here, so I had to figure out how to get a three-way input. Now that I kind of have an idea, I might rebuild this group so it has factor and 3 inputs. But I just did it internally because I wanted a specific thing, and it seems to work. So let's smear soften. Oh, I know this is not too impressive right now. I'm just demonstrating something. I'll show you what is possible with cycles materials, which is really cool, to be honest. And interfaces, there's a logic to it, so if you know enough about programming, it's kind of like a flow chart, but instead of like top to bottom or whatever, it's left to right. Everything flows from inputs, the various inputs on the left, and all channels down to the output on the right. And I'm going to render one more time so you can see what it does. So you get this effect of primer being stripped away, going to bare metal. You have the glossy paint there, and I can put the glossy paint where the highlight is so you can see. What am I doing here? I'm gonna gotta switch to the brush paint again. kind of a neat effect. Maybe you're goofy with it. Render. It's not showing the highway light all the way through. I guess it's just because the setup here. But I had another neater example, but like I said, it hit the texture I had done on it. So I don't know what happened to it. Somehow I didn't save it internally. I guess I need a texture node or something goofy. I don't know what I'm doing, but I got the fancy compositing based cycles material to work. That's just what I want to show. So here you go. You can actually mix more than one material using a grayscale with node groups. So that's just showing what's possible. It is possible. It's just a lot of work to figure out. And I'm sure there's still some better ways to do it that I need to learn about. But even me being new to this, I figured out this much. So it is really cool. And why am I still going? I don't know. There you go. It's just something to try out for your own Blender renders and your own materials. And have fun, I guess. So I'll pop back out of here. Default. And yeah. Oh, there we go. I got the 3D view here. So you can see the checkerboard that I originally started out with showing my UVs were applied. Kind of texture painted it. Yeah, it gives you this like worn through effect, which is really kind of neat. The highlight's not exactly solving all the way. I don't know why it's doing it. I had it working better before. It's probably a material that's backwards or something. But you get the metal here with the bumpy light. It's almost like the metal's still showing through when it shouldn't be. So there maybe is a little glitch in my shader, but or glitch introduced when I saved it. But it's pretty neat. I'll work on it somewhere, I believe. But not right away. I got other things I want to do. Blah blah blah. I'm still talking. Alright, that's it.